Like most modern day Americans, I grew up in a suburb centered around the car. A few miles down the Strode from where we lived, however, is a suburb of a different kind. It has a walk score of 91. It has three big parks, two of which are anchored by large bodies of water. The housing stock is extremely diverse, from big lot single family homes, apartment buildings, and almost every other housing type in between. There's a main street playing host to all manner of restaurants and businesses. In December, the town is a hub of holiday festivities. And for trips outside town, there's a metro station linking you with the rest of the region that gets 24/7 service. This suburb is in New Jersey, across the Delaware River from Philadelphia, and its name is
Collingswood.
Collingswood is a place I went to a lot while growing up in South Jersey. So, recently, I decided to go back to study the town from an urban planning perspective. Since I visited in December, I also got to enjoy some of the local holiday activities. But before we get into Collingswood today, some history. Like many old towns in the United States, Collingswood owes its existence to the railroad, or in this case, two railroads, the Camden and Atlantic, and the Philadelphia and Atlantic City. Both railroads were built to speed tourists to Atlantic City on the Jersey Shore. Because the railroads now offered a fast connection to the bustling industrial cities of Philadelphia and Camden, land in South Jersey was now ripe for suburban development. Collingswood was incorporated in 1888. Shortly after, the town got a big boost when a businessman named Edward C. Knight donated a large plot of land to the town, becoming Knight Park. Today, it's home to pathways, ball fields, and a playground. This helped make Collingswood a much more attractive place to move to, helping fuel a five-fold increase in the town's population between 1900 and 1920. This is a great example of how investments in public space are fundamental to a community's economy. The town gained even more public space in the 1930s when, using funds from the New Deal, the land along the Cooper River and Newton Lake, on the north and south of the town respectively, were transformed into parkland. After World War II, Collingswood, like many towns in the United States, faced the pressures of increasing auto use and accompanying trends such as shopping malls, threatening to upend the livelihood of many older suburbs built around the railroad. Fortunately, many positive developments also occurred during this period that kept the town strong. A business association was formed to encourage higher standards for stores on Haddon Avenue, Collingswood's main street, keeping downtown an attractive place to shop. Local officials realized sustainable population growth required building up and not just out. So, in 1948, the town permitted the construction of Parkview Apartments, among the first high-rise housing in the area. More important, however, was the opening of the PATCO speed line in 1969. Replacing the previous commuter train lines, this express metro line provides Collingswood and other South Jersey suburbs with a direct, fast connection to downtown Philadelphia, along with spectacular views while crossing over the Ben Franklin Bridge. If you want to learn more about PATCO, I recommend watching this video by Alan Fisher, linked in the description. As it relates to Collingswood, a key part of PATCO's construction was elevating the trains on a mix of embankments and concrete viaducts, thus removing all grade crossings. I think PATCO's alignment through Collingswood is a great example to point to when faced with the refrain, "Elevated trains ruin neighborhoods." Montreal, Los Angeles. Let's take a closer look. First of all, unlike older Ls in New York or Chicago constructed of dark, bulky steel, PATCO's viaducts are constructed of light, smooth, curving concrete. Despite supporting two tracks, PATCO's elevated structures are supported on a single slender column. These factors minimize the amount of ground space taken up by the structures, allowing easy community access from one side of the line to another. When it comes to noise, PATCO speedline trains, as their name implies, move fast. Combined with their short length, the noise they emit comes and goes within seconds. I actually had difficulty hearing the trains coming while filming for this video. Compare this with the alternative to having good mass transit, a traffic-choked, multi-lane road that almost always produces lots of noise, always divides the community, while simultaneously being far less efficient at moving people than a metro. I think I know which of the two is really ruining the neighborhood. And if you're still not convinced, do you think the Lumberyard luxury apartment complex would have been built next to PATCO during the Great Recession if elevated trains were ruining the neighborhood? If I had to make a gripe about PATCO, it's that it doesn't run enough trains through Collingswood. While service operates at a decent 15-minute off-peak headway on weekdays, with rush hour headways doubled to every 7 minutes, headways on Saturday decreased to every 20 minutes, and on Sunday, the day I visited, to every 30 minutes. While it's great to have 24/7 train service, it's a bit of a hassle to have to check a timetable to make weekend trips on what is supposed to be a metro. And it's not like the system isn't being used. Whenever I walked past the station, there were always people waiting on the platform for the next train. When I went back to the station to start my journey home, a huge crowd of Eagles football fans streamed off a crush-loaded train coming out of the city. I actually had to wait a few minutes for all these people to go through the fare gates. So, PATCO, please run 15-minute headways on weekends. The other recommendation I have for PATCO is to consolidate the surface parking into a multi-story garage. This would allow the remaining land to be redeveloped with some high-density housing, following the example of the Somerville train station in North Jersey. The space used for parking under the viaduct could be reused for a linear park, similar to the Underline in Miami. This proposal wouldn't be radical for Collingswood, as the town is no stranger to high-density housing. As I walked around town, I was truly amazed to see how much variety there is in the housing stock. Near downtown and the PATCO station, there are lots of duplexes, with some newer apartment buildings sprinkled in. As you walk further from downtown, most of the housing becomes single family, but the lot sizes are quite small, allowing more people to live within walking distance of downtown. And while it's not important in the grand scheme of things, the housing density also allowed me to see lots of Christmas lights on foot. But things get crazy once you get closer to Cooper and Newton parks. The single family houses get bigger, the houses overlooking the lake being the largest. However, this is complemented with more dense housing, multiplexes, condominiums, mid-rise apartments with game rooms, and even apartment towers. The most interesting place I came across in Collingswood was the intersection of Woodlawn Terrace and Cedar Avenue. Here, there are apartments, duplexes, single-family homes, and condominiums, all in the same view. This is excellent proof that housing of various density can coexist with no problem. This location provides a nice segue into nearby Cooper River Park, a system of green spaces and mixed-use pathways on both sides of the Cooper River. It also contains another playground, a running track, boathouse, yacht club, and an Italian restaurant. The park is quite easy to get to, with many of Collingswood's neighborhood streets ending at Park Drive, the road running along the Cooper River. Most streets that stop short of the park end at motofilters, pedestrian-only connections linking the end of the street to Park Drive. My favorite one is at the end of New Jersey Avenue, which is connected to the park via a playground. If I ever become a parent, this would be the type of place I would want to raise my kids. Speaking of, kids in Collingswood have a pretty easy time getting to school. With 4 elementary schools sprinkled throughout town, younger children never have more than a 15-minute walk to the nearest school. Meanwhile, the co-located middle and high school is no more than a half-hour walk or 10-minute bike ride from any house in Collingswood. Either way, you don't need a motor vehicle to get your kid to school, which probably does wonders to reduce traffic. You might be noticing a pattern in Collingswood. The town's compact layout makes it easy to get places with either walking or cycling. And while Collingswood only has one bike lane, right next to the PATCO station, most streets are narrow enough that you don't really need bike lanes anyway. And sure enough, despite the weather being freezing, I saw more than a few people biking, including some people with kids. Now, being able to walk and bike everywhere is great, but it doesn't matter much if there aren't any destinations in town to walk and cycle to. So let's see what this town has to offer. Food first. For basic items like milk, there are several convenience stores in Collingswood and in neighboring Haddon Township in Oakland. Notably, there's a Wawa downtown that's attached to a Rite Aid pharmacy. For fresh food, there's a produce market just across Haddon Avenue. Also in downtown is Haddon Culinary, which is like a mini Whole Foods. High quality food, but expensive prices. At least they have free Wi-Fi. And on Saturday mornings, from May to Thanksgiving, a farmer's market takes place, right under the PATCO viaduct. If you're looking for a big box grocery store, there's an Acme just over the line in Haddon Township, less than a 15-minute bike ride from all addresses in Collingswood. You can also take PATCO 2 stops to Haddonfield and shop at the Acme there. And in a pinch, you can always get groceries delivered. If that's your route, you have plenty more stores to choose from: ShopRite, Wegmans, Whole Foods, Aldi, and several local stores. But what about restaurants? Let's see. Jersey Diner, check. Coffee shop, check. Seafood, check. Chinese, check. Thai, check. Japanese, check. Turkish, check. French, check. Mexican, check, check, check. Italian. Yeah, this is New Jersey. I'll file under overload. And now let's check on the things my mother values. First, churches. Well, there are plenty, of varying denominations. As a bonus, this church also runs a nursery school, which provides an in-town option for childcare. Second are abundant opportunities for shopping. Well, that's Haddon Avenue in a nutshell. Some highlights: this antique shop that sells PATCO roll sign posters, a boutique candy shop, a pottery workshop, an LGBTQ friendly comic book store, a wedding dress shop, a jewelry store, and probably my favorite, the hardware store that has a train running in the window during holidays. Speaking of the holidays, Collingswood makes all parking free during the holiday shopping season. The town even spends money to cover up all the parking meters. I have mixed feelings about this. Next year, can there also be free PATCO tickets to Collingswood? Please? Let's wrap up this video with the event that I came to Collingswood for, the Collingsweird Holiday Bazaar. This happened in the Scottish Rite Auditorium, basically Collingswood's event center. It would be an understatement, though, to call the event weird. I think lurid might be a better description, from the music that was playing to some of the stuff that was for sale. I'm not going to show the bad stuff because I want to keep this PG, but safe to say, they probably should have had this sign hanging at the front entrance. Still, the important thing is that I can go to activities like this without driving, and that is what is so special about Collingswood. To close off on this town, I think Collingswood should have a welcome sign reading, "Collingswood, America's best suburb." Thanks for watching. This is the end of the line for the J-Bahn today. Come ride with us again when we release new content.